What up, guys? I believe this is episode 22 for the Double Digit Angler podcast brought to you by Z Pro, serious power for serious anglers. Today, we have a special guest by the name of Daniel Perry, and he's killing it right now. He's located over at Huntsville, Alabama, and yeah, let's bring him on.
What's up, Facebook Live? What's up, dude?
Dude, long time no see, man.
Yeah, a whole 4 days.
Was it 4 days?
Yeah, 3 or 4. Yeah,
It was on Sunday.
yeah,
Today's Wednesday. I didn't even get to go fishing today.
yeah.
I mean, if I did, that would be really special. But I'm super fortunate, anyways, being able to fish on Monday and Tuesday, I think, and
Living a dream, man.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you? So, what do you do full time for work?
I'm a buyer for a oil and lubricants distributor.
Oh, okay. A buyer. So you buy wholesale?
No, they're two things. They're a distributor for mobile Exxon products. I've only been working there 2 weeks. Before that, I was a food ingredient distributor buyer. But I also have a degree in oil and gas, MBA, and all that. But now it's just they get a bunch of oil from ExxonMobil, plus they source their own brand name stuff, and we sell it all over. So yeah, Southeast region.
Nice. So you don't distribute anything to California, do you?
No. Well, we have a kind of we have one third party location there that you can get oil, but it's our name brand stuff, not because they have territories for mobile, so we can't encroach on somebody else's. But our brand name Protect stuff with a K is out in California. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So you don't have to get into it very long, but just elaborate, tell me a little bit about yourself other than your work. Tell me a little bit about how you got into fishing, and then how you picked up your first kayak.
Yeah. I'm originally from Biloxi, Mississippi, which, if you don't know, is on the coast. Kind of sort of grew up fishing inshore, saltwater, speckled trout, redfish, flounder, stuff like that. Some cobia, tarpon every now and then. Not much, though. We just had a bay boat and couldn't go too far out. Then went in the middle, and I fished with my grandpa on the Pascagoula River whenever I was a kid. So we crappie fish, bass fish, a little stuff like that. Then went in the military for 10 years, got out, and then as soon as I got out, I met my wife, and her father was huge. I mean, here in Central Alabama, huge into bass fishing. I mean, he just passed away not too long ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear.
Yeah, he's the one that got me into bass fishing, but he has a whole entire trophy room. He is a better angler. He was a better angler than I'll ever be. And he, even though he fished really simply, sometimes them stubborn fishermen can win a lot of tournaments too. And he definitely did that. But he taught me, his partner had just gotten cancer and died a few years before that. So he didn't give it up, and he still had his Ranger, but he needed a partner. So he kind of said, all right, if you're going to be with my daughter, you're going to figure out how to bass fish. And from 2007 on, it's been nothing but bass fishing. Then I went back to school in 2012 with the GI Bill. I was president of the University of Montebello team, which is back-to-back national champions right now. So I fished I was an older adult student, but I fished at the same time as Matt and Jordan Lee, Dustin Connell, people like that. So there's a lot of stiff competition whenever I was fishing. And if anybody knows pro fishermen, Clint Davis is the one. He's a Elite Series guy. He's the one who started the Montebello team. And so yeah, I did that. And then coming to the kayak part, my last tournament of my last year in 2015, me and my partner were fishing a Boat US National Championship on Pickwick. It's Northwest Alabama, borders Tennessee and Mississippi as well. And I was driving the boat and hit something going 60, submerged in 20 feet of water out in the channel. Just a freak thing. Have no idea what it was. but it sheared off everything. It must have barely missed the hull, but it took off everything above the foot of the motor. So there was no, we were topped out, rooster tail going in the back as fast as you could possibly go in that boat, 18 foot with a 150 and going 60. So it started to do this for a like shaking for a
Like
second.
churning a little bit.
Well, it started to shake and then it lost control. It spun out 900 degrees and
Yeah.
it ejected my partner. He skipped across the water. But luckily, because we ran a tournament, we were both wearing life jackets. Somehow I held on. I got that.
The guns.
I don't know. I don't know how I held on, seriously.
Mhm.
But yeah, we had 22 pounds. He got in LSU's boat and went and weighed in. There were some friends of ours, but yeah. So
Glad you guys are safe.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. But it totaled the boat. But luckily, there was total replacement, so they had to fix the whole thing. But it took like 6 months. And I was like, I got a fish, so I went and bought, just a
Mhm.
Bass Pro kayak
Yeah.
and a Ascend, and I did that in 2015. And then we had a. My wife said, "Oh, you quit smoking, and we'll get you a new boat. You can sell the one that's been
Mhm.
repaired, get you a new one." Well, instead, I sold the boat, and then instead of getting a new one, I got a dang kid. So, uh, so yeah, I never got the boat, and I just had
Damn.
a kayak then. So,
Dang.
so then I got really into kayaking. Like I started getting into it and fishing around a lot
What
around here.
year is this?
This was 2015, the end of 2015. And then I did that for, I guess, a couple of years. And then I was one of the first people to get a bona fide SS 127. Like
Mhm.
I had pre ordered it with Austin Canoe and Kayak because there was no dealers around here. And I had to have been like one of the very first ones to get it. And
Wow.
then not too long after that, I was lucky enough, Brian Schiller with Paddle and Fin, got on that
Mhm.
podcast 6 months later because I was so into fishing already. And then you add the kayak part into it. And then, yeah, it's just ever since I've been into it.
Did you motorize your SS 127?
No, I didn't at the time. And this was before the wings here in Alabama until this year is the first time they've ever allowed motors in tournaments. Last year, Coleman allowed them, which is another club north of about an hour north of here. They allowed them for the first time last year. And then North Alabama Kayak Anglers, kind of the OG in Alabama, the granddaddy of all clubs. They usually have
Mhm.
80 and 90 people. And they allowed them this year for the first time. So Alabama's really been slow to allow motors. So I never had one, and paddling a 127 is not awesome. So
No,
yeah.
not at
So I
all.
went to pedals not too long after that, and then yeah, on
Well,
and on.
congrats on that. That's a major deal, right? For
Yeah.
for you that Alabama's allowing motorized kayaks now. Like,
Yeah, I think it's just we're really fortunate here. And here's what
mhm,
happened. Is a lot of these how I see it is a lot of these clubs here we're really fortunate. If you look at a map, a lot of people don't know this, especially out west, I'm sure.
mhm,
Alabama, Mississippi sucked for water. There's not many big bodies of water, but in Alabama, we're really blessed where we have all this water. Smith Lake, Coosa River, where the Elite Series is on Lay Lake on the Coosa River this year, Gunnersville, Tennessee River in the north part. But we have a lot of creeks. So a lot of these
mhm.
kayak clubs they all started from creek clubs. They weren't like boat guys who became kayak anglers. They were creek guys that became tournament
Creek
anglers.
guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
So like
tournament creek
creek,
anglers.
like yeah, like real skinny water
Yeah.
guys. So I think that's why we were real slow to allow motors because
Mhm.
the creek guys were like, well, we're really getting away from the origins of the sport where I came from the other side, the motor side. So this was, so it's kind of us coming together. It just took a few years
So
for that to
Smith
happen.
Lake, sorry to interrupt. Is Smith Lake, is that considered Highland Reservoir or Lowland Reservoir?
Highland. I mean,
Highland?
yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
A lot
it's
of arms, right?
oh,
A
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
a lot
And
of arms.
I had a tournament there last weekend. And it's probably the most beautiful lake in the state. It was
Mhm.
flooded, but it's got, it was dammed up, but some places over 100 feet deep. It's Alabama spotted bass,
Is
the
the
big
dam
ones.
like super tall and short or long, miles
I've
long?
I've never been to it, so I don't even know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know it flows down to the Sipsey River, and they stock trout there, which is like a fly fishing place.
I
But
mean, this looks humongous.
oh yeah, it's giant. And somebody a few years ago put herring in it, so now it's a herring lake.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so
Is it all spotted bass or is it there's largies too?
yeah, there's a largemouth too, but it's
Mhm.
I mean 9 out of 10 fish you catch are going to be spots.
So you're looking for them 20, 19 to 20-inch spots.
Yeah, yeah.
And with
It was a little bit more difficult. Everybody kind of thought this tournament last week, especially because we had a bunch of people in it, was going to
Mhm.
take 92. I think we were
Yeah.
thinking low 90s. Here it's post spawn. There's a few spawners left, and that's kind of what I found at the end of the day. I
Mhm.
really lucked into them, but the shad spawn hadn't started either, so it's kind of that real early post spawn funk, where
Is
it's
it
in
post
between right
spawn,
now.
but then the water temp dropped down again? Is that why the shad's not spawning?
I don't know. I mean, a few weeks ago, I saw a shad spawn because I fished a Coleman event.
Yeah.
Not bragging, but I won that one. But it was because there was a shad spawn going on in
Mhm.
the area I was at. On the lower end of the lake, there wasn't one. Just happened to be there was where I was. And yeah, I haven't seen a shad spawn. And I've been fishing every week since. I don't know why I haven't seen a shad spawn anywhere else since then. The temperatures have been warm, especially here in the last week, but
Tell
they've
me, like,
it's been pretty stable. Yeah.
go deeper into the shad spawn. Like, how do you go about finding the shad spawn in areas, and what are your top baits that you utilize to target bass that are eating the herring or the threadfin shad or silver sides?
Yeah.
Go deeper into that.
Yeah. Well, right now it's starting. I'm sure if you're going to watch the Elite Series tomorrow, they're on Lay Lake. They'll be fishing a lot of here, especially on the Coosa River.
Hmm.
We do in other places too. We have something called water willow. It kind of comes up maybe 2 or 3 feet out of the water. That's like our
Mm.
primary. Like unless you're on Gunnersville
It's
and
like
Tennessee
cypress
River.
trees. It's kind
No,
of like your
we
cypress tree.
no, we really don't have. We don't have a lot of cypress trees here, but kind of yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so it's kind of a thin grass where you can get a bait through it. It's
Hmm.
not like a mat. And
Oh, okay.
so a primary bait we would use here in that grass is a swim jig. And if you've ever heard the Alabama shake, where you're shaking your rod tip to keep the bait up in the water, it kind of
Hmm.
flutters
Yeah.
and it pulsates and it keeps it up high in the water column. That's a big bait here, especially on Coosa River. But spinner baits, any kind of fast moving top water like a buzz bait, chopo, whopper plopper, those would be great, obviously.
My buddy
Well,
Don does that trick like
yeah,
that, but then he does it with the flashy swimmer.
yeah,
Did,
yeah,
do
yeah.
you do you do that as
No,
well?
I
Or
do the pulse. I think I watched a Matt Steffen video where he was talking about pulsing it, where
Mhm.
you pull it, you let it, you know, like you pull it harder, you let it go slower, harder, slower. So it's always kind of doing something a little bit different.
Mhm.
I guess it'd be like doing a jerk bait where it's pop, pop, you know, well, whatever it is, you're just giving it some kind of action.
Yeah.
I'm just not the kind of guy where I'm just going to be slow rolling a swim
Standard
jig.
retrieve. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
a spinner bait maybe that can be the right thing along a grass
Right.
line, but most of the time I'm moving it. Randy Howell, if you're trying to get in swim jig fishing and especially the Alabama shake, Randy Howell I think has the best video where I think he's on Lay Lake. He's talking about power swimming a jig. So Randy
Mhm.
Howell, power swimming a jig, YouTube. That's a great like starting place for it to understand that technique. But here it's yeah, it's the deal, man.
Did you compete against Dustin Connell all the time?
In college, I did, and then
Mhm.
I mean, I used to live in Clanton, the same town he lives in now.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think he moved to one lake down. That's it's like the Coosa River it's Weiss. I'll because it's just one big river dammed up. So you have
Yeah.
Weiss Lake, and then you have Neely Henry, Logan Martin. Lay Lake, where Elite Series are this week.
Is this south
Mitchell,
or is this south or is
South,
this
it's on the
north?
east side,
Southeast?
Central East.
Central East.
Yeah, and then you have Mitchell, Jordan, and then it goes down to the Alabama River.
It's not next to, is it next to Lake Martin?
North of Lake Martin.
North of Lake Martin?
Yeah, it's that water that. Yeah.
The Tallapoosa River?
No.
Or north of that?
North of that.
Man, you guys have like, you're right. You guys just have so much river systems.
Yeah, we have so many different kinds of water where it's, the Coosa River, Warrior River, Black Warrior.
Oh wait, so Lake Lake is connected to Coosa?
Yeah, that is Coosa River, and that's where the Elites are this year. This week.
Mm-hmm. How is that going to turn out? Is it all spotted bass too? Is Alabama full of spotted bass?
A lot of it, Coosa River definitely is. A majority of the water is. Like Tennessee River, no. Tennessee River has actual spotted bass.
Yeah.
But like Smith Lake, Warrior River, Coosa River, Lake Martin, they all have Alabama spotted bass, which are a bigger species.
Oh,
if you go up to a Tennessee River, you're not targeting spotted bass. If you weigh in a spotted bass, you've done something wrong.
Yeah, you're usually doing smallmouth and largies, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Coosa River, mostly spots. I think this week there's definitely big largemouth. That lake gets a ton of pressure, so it's going to be difficult. 4 days, it's probably going to take 60 pounds. I think if I were fishing it, I would be fishing the lower end for spotted bass because they're more, you would think they're a little more pelagic, like they'd move around a little bit more, but really they're a little bit more consistent. So maybe you go up a little bit and you fish bunch grass in the morning if you can find a good shad spawn, and you try to catch that one or two.
So how do you, did you go into it already? Like, how do you find that shad spawn?
Yeah, usually it could be on anything from grass to rocks, just any kind of structure. They're not going to do it out in open water. It's going to be some kind of vegetation or hard structure like riprap.
But usually grass and
grass too. Mm-hmm.
So you'll see like them flickering doing their dancing on the grass, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's why it totally makes sense.
Yeah, you can't miss it. But I think those guys are really you're going to have to find one or two largemouth in the morning, and then go play it safe, fishing spots. There'll be a few people up at the dam fighting each other, but they're really just going to cut each other's throat. There's not going to be enough fish to last all week. So,
what's your favorite topwater bait when the shad spawn's going off?
Hard to beat a Chapo, man. I mean, if I can get away with it, if they're biting it, either a buzz bait, if I'm in the way I choose it to, or if I'm fishing more grass, I'll go buzz bait. And if I fish the accent ones, it's usually the larger one if I'm around largemouth, and the finesse one if I'm fishing around just spotted bass. That's how I make my decision. I use the X-Zone Adrenaline Craw Junior. It's like the Z Craw if you're in a Zoom, or it's just a little paddle tail. I mean, a twin tail.
Yeah,
I like it because it's flatter and it keeps the buzz bait up a little bit more instead of being like a regular, like a minnow style lure. It's a little bit flatter. Yeah.
Nice.
But Chapo, if I'm out in open water or fishing along the grass line,
like a rip or grass line, you would Chapo for sure.
If I can, I mean, if I can get away with it, I mean,
why pick the Chapo over a whopper plopper? Yeah,
I think it echoes a little bit more.
Does it?
I know for me, it seems like the average fish I catch are a little bit better. And the only difference I can tell is that it sounds hollower, and it's got a little bit different knock to it. I don't know if it calls me because they think it's bigger, but
does it foul up in grass just as easy as the whopper plopper? Like you get one strand in.
Yeah, it's trash if you're around grass at all. But
okay.
Yeah, I do prefer that one to the plopper. I've just had more luck with it. I'm sure,
Do
five
you have any?
actually people would say the other way,
Yeah.
you know.
Did you have any crazy stories with the Chapo, like specifically that you can remember?
Man, I this year I've absolutely slayed them on it. Um,
Really? Was it a game time decision during a tournament? Was it like I need to tie this on, or was it premeditated? You're like, this is the only thing I'm throwing during this tournament.
yeah, so there was a tournament this year on Katoma that I ended
Mhm,
up getting. No, it was on a little lake in Coleman, and it was a tournament. It was Coleman isn't that big. I think we
mhm,
had 25 people. I ended up in second, but we had so many people. This is what I did because the water was only 56, but it was kind of on a warming trend.
mhm.
55 would be the absolute soonest I would throw a top water.
Yeah.
But I promise next year, or if you're up north, if you're the first one to throw a big top water, like if you get a 2 or 3 day warming trend and you're the first one to throw that top water, it's like it's magic. It's
In
absolute.
55?
Oh yeah, I am always the first one to throw a top water whenever it's cold, but it's got to be a warming trend because I think whenever it's warming, they don't think of, well, it's only 55. They think, I'm excited. It's warm because it's getting warmer over the
Mhm.
last few days. It's not
So
like
you're saying a trend is lot m- lot more looking forward to a trend than the overall warming, overall temperature.
that time of the year, absolutely. And they will get up that, especially whenever it's 55, 56,
Yeah.
and it's been a 2 or 3 day warming trend, they will get up dirt shallow as they can possibly get because that's the warmest water. And if you're that guy who throws a top water on that day, that first 1 or 2 times where they actually bite it, it's the most magical bite in the world. It's obviously a top water, chopo, buzz bait, anything you can catch them on top water is the best. But
Are you
yeah, that
primarily talking about spotted bass, or are you talking about
no
largies
largemouth.
too?
I caught sevens and eights. That tournament I won. Um, I mean, I got second in that tournament. I had the fish and they came off, but it
Mhm.
was just because it's a really small lake and it was that warming trend. And I knew nobody else was throwing at top water. So I pulled out a big top water and I'm going to throw this all day long. And I got the right bites. I just, they didn't all stay buttoned. So I got in second to my buddy Chuck, which is totally
That's an
fine. I
incredible
love that guy.
story. That's incredible. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't dare to throw top water in 55 degrees
Yeah.
unless maybe I'm in San Diego area. If I'm fishing a lake in San Diego, maybe I'll fish like when it's close to 60.
There's
Because
a
like
yeah.
go ahead.
I have another top water bait that uh, it's it's on the down low. You can't get it, but
Oh
oh,
really?
you can't get it anymore. But
Is
it's
it is it
special.
similar to a Chapo?
I can tell you about it later, man. Because I stay on eBay trying to get the first one, and I don't mind giving up anything, but that one I'm not.
Damn, you sound like Butch Brown when he first got the
But
250, the depths
I,
250 in the hood.
I didn't mean to rub that in, but yeah, it's
No, it's
discontinued
all
bait.
good. Oh, it's discontinued.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've only got
yeah.
2 left, and I promise every week I get on eBay looking for one.
Damn. Max Lee's asking, is it the RI Vixen?
No, Reaction Innovation Vixen, nah. The old ones are great, but no, that's not it. Which
Yeah,
I never threw the old Vixen. I don't understand. Maybe he can tell us what's the difference between the old one and the new one. Is there a difference? Or are they and actually Reaction
yeah.
Innovations is right here, like right in the town right next to me. Funny enough.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I like their sweet beavers. They
Yeah.
work.
Funny, like they're in the Bible Belt and they have, the ladies on the packaging and all.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think they had come from here, but yeah. Actually, funny enough, at my old job at the food distributor, I was the buyer for salt, a bunch of other things. But I bought the salt that they use in their salted bait in their baits.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
Well, you
a
should
little two
send
degrees
us that
separation.
information. Is it like specific? Is it unique salt or is it
No,
just?
just Morton salt.
Oh,
There is different kinds of salt, but it's a dendritic. I mean, I'm not giving anything away. It's what they use in the industry. It's a dendritic. I don't know what the difference is in between a regular table salt and dendritic salt, but That's what they use.
Oh, okay. So it's not, you wouldn't put it in your steak? Probably not, or
I
you
don't know.
you
It's
just don't
salt. I
know.
mean, you could. Yeah. It's.
Yeah.
I think all it does is there's like whenever you're cooking something, a lot of
Mhm.
those different food ingredients, they're the same thing, just a little bit different whenever they cook out of something or when they dissolve, they have like different timing.
Yeah.
Ah,
Max Lee says the sound knock is different due to a different type of plastic to the mold hard bait, supposedly.
there you go.
I mean, but there's so many molds that look similar to it. Like the Lucky Craft
Yeah.
looks pretty similar to it. In my mind, I'm like, I'm not losing confidence over, throwing a Lucky Craft or a Vixen. It doesn't matter to me.
But it might be the same thing I'm talking about where maybe it's a different density in the plastic of what they use in between the Chapo and the plopper that
It
makes
might,
more of that
yeah,
echo sound, where it's the same
yeah,
thing with the old one, new Vixen. I
yeah,
don't
yeah. There might be like a pitch difference or
yeah,
something, that they're more attracted to a higher pitch versus a lower pitch.
yeah, for sure.
I mean, there's times for me, I think that made a really big difference is between heavy, like for me, for lures, it's more about like heavy versus light and keeping baits in the water column, certain water columns,
Yeah.
or or how to present a bait in a certain depth. That I feel like is more important to me, but I am not a I am no expert on top water or crankbait, so I have no idea. Like a LC 1.5 Lucky Craft versus Strike King square bill, like how to choose between the two. Like I have no idea. You know what I mean?
For crankbaits, except for lipless, I really like the Yozuri rattling vibe. But all my
Yeah.
other crankbaits, I use all the Spro Little John series. It just I like I'm a little OCD where I like the consistent colors across. Like
Hmm.
if I want to fish a chartreuse blackback, or spooky shad, or whatever it is, whatever that color is, I want to be able to go from a Fat John 60, which is higher, like 2 to 3 feet, down to a Little John, which is 5 feet. Like if I want to swap back and forth, because I use the Norman speed clips, be able to swap between my crankbaits without having to retie, because
Yeah.
they all same similar weight, same rod. Um, that I want to be able to have that same color because that's what I have confidence in. If I
Yeah.
went to a different brand, it would weird me out. So I just throw all the Spro Little John, and I've been doing it for so long. I'm really comfortable with them. And a lot of the water that I fish most of the time here in Alabama gets so much pressure because we have so many anglers, so many great
Mhm.
anglers, but so many anglers that for me, having a flat side most of the time isn't a negative. Like most people, after it warms up a little bit, they go to more of rounded,
Yeah.
more of a rounded crankbait rather than a flat side. But that little bit more finesse flat side is fine all year or two.
We have Max Lee. Have a question for you. Is what are the average size of a spotted bass on the Coosa?
So I'd say average
13.
lengthwise, the average. It seems like there's always a lot more smaller ones than there are big ones.
Yeah.
But I'd say average 14 inches, but you can easily catch, you know, 17, 18s. 18 would be a good one. Pretty much same as a largemouth. It's going to be a good one, but to catch any spotted bass over 20 is going to be really difficult to do. I really think this, like I was talking about this with my buddy the other day. I think the average number of land ratio for large spotted bass, like over 5 pounds, Alabama bass, has to be the lowest out of any bass species. Maybe a shoal bass too, because I've never even caught one of those down in Georgia. But big Alabama bass are so angry. They have those red eyes.
Hmm.
My my Clanton buddy who really loves God, he used to say they got the devil in them, Dan.
Yeah.
That because they have those red eyes. And
Yeah.
yeah, the 5 pound spotted bass is damn near impossible to get in a boat, especially coming off of top water. But Yeah, I'd say the average is 14, but an 18 like a largemouth is.
What's it gonna get you in like a top 20, like out of 100 boats?
Are, for
Top 20.
spotted bass,
Yeah, over at the Coosa.
yeah, Coosa.
Top 20, top 30 out of like 100, boats.
I would say most of the time, if you're 100 boat kayak tournament, it's still going to take this time of the year low 90s, still low 90s.
Really? So 30th place out of 100 will
Oh no, I'm saying 30th place would probably be
80,
75 because
75?
yeah, Coosa Rivers kind of have it. It usually turns out where it's the have and have nots because it could be really difficult. So and it can really shut off too. Like the fishing can be really good or it can absolutely turn off. So usually Coosa River events are have and have nots where you get a lot of zeros and you get some people that have really good bags at the top.
Oh, I see. You'll get a lot. You'll get like 50% of the field. Some of them don't even bring in a limit sometimes.
Yeah, at least I'd say Coosa River, if you had 100 people, 25 are probably going zero. 20, 25.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
it really does shut off.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
not, it's one, would you call it like top 10 lakes in the country or definitely not?
Oh, no, not all. No. No, Smith Lake is a great spotted bass fishery. I mean, it would be like a Lake Norman or, like a deep, clear lake, really good spotted bass fishing. Gunnersville's obviously awesome. Anything Tennessee River, but yeah, Coosa River, it gets so much pressure. It can be really difficult. I've said before. I think where the elites are at this week is maybe the most pressured body of water in the country.
That's at Lake, you said?
Lay Lake, yeah,
Lake.
like consistent tournament body of water
Is
because
your is your
it's
favorite
narrow, but it's really long.
is your favorite Dustin Connell?
Randall Tharp's my favorite angler
I mean, for if you had a fantasy pick of like top 3 anglers.
this week.
Yeah.
No, he's on Bass Pro Tour, Elite Series.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, he used to be though.
Yeah.
I think Bill Lowen's going to win it actually
Bill Lowens.
because I say that because one, he loves swim jigs, and number two, he's from like the Ohio River where it's really difficult to catch fish, so he's a really good grinder.
Mhm.
He's only won one tournament and was last year on Pickwick for the first time. So I think him coming back to Alabama at the right time during the shad spawn, he would be my pick to win.
Is he a
But
local? He's a local?
I could huh?
He's a local,
No, he's from Ohio.
but he's a spotted bass. Do they have spotted bass in Ohio?
Well, yeah, I don't think so. But he's they have smallmouth and largemouth, but he's a
Yeah.
swim jig guy. I think
Oh,
and he's a veteran. He's been around a long time.
okay.
I could really see Fujita, the guy that's been on a roll. He's got five
Mhm.
live scope transducers on his boat.
Really?
5. I met him the other day at Bucks Island, so that's my shop. So I know he's been in this area fishing and putting in some time on the Coosa River. I'll bet you he was fishing either Neely Henry or Logan because Bucks Island's on Neely Henry, two lakes up from Lay Lake. But yeah, he's got 5 of them. He's a guy that almost won with the cube deal.
What is the cutoff time between
Well, like he can fish
Lake?
another lake on the chain. He just can't fish that one. So
Oh, okay.
he could fish 1 or 2 lakes up all he wants to. Some of those guys actually we've seen them around coming in early to come pre-fish different lakes to kind of get
A
a feel
feel for the
yeah.
waters, yeah,
Mhm.
because it's similar, right?
Oh yeah,
Same.
very similar.
Wow.
Although Lay Lake's weird because it's the top. It's like a 3 different sections. You have the upper section, which is river,
Hmm.
like a lot narrower, more river. Then you have center, which is like flatter, more grass, more largemouth, and that's probably where you're going to catch your bigger fish. And then the lower end is real rocky, uh, deeper, rocky, clearer water, and a lot more spotted bass down there.
So you're gonna say people are gonna definitely go for the largemouth in the center of the lake, or what?
I think early, and then you're either going to have to go up or down to
To fill
fill
in
your
the
limit with
limit.
spots. Yeah. Which you can't really do that in a kayak, so it can make you can mess up your decision by choosing your water if you don't change launches sometimes fishing the Coosa River because the different parts of the lakes are so different and different
Would you
species.
pack minimal? Would you pack minimal if, let's say, you had a tournament over the Coosa River, and it was a 3-day tournament, and day one, you can't win it on day one, but you sure could lose.
Yeah.
Are you packing light per launch, and just in case you need to put audible and go drive down south and launch at a different spot to fill your limit?
If I were fishing like a 3-day tournament
Mhm.
on the Coosa River and I were coming from out of town, I would bring 2 kayaks. I would bring both my creek boat and I would bring my big boat. I'd probably put
Mhm.
my creek boat in at some little sneaky spots. Well, it depends on whose rules you're fishing.
Yeah.
If you have designated launches now, you can't even do that. But
Mhm.
before then, it would have been fishing some sneaky backwater shad spawn type stuff where boats can't go because there is so much pressure here. And then probably going down to the lower end or upper end to get fill a limit. Yeah.
Another question I have for you. Do
Oh.
you think those guys like Russ Snyder and Drew Gregory, that it's
Mhm.
going to make an impact on them having the new rules in place for like no backwater sections, or just have designated launch ramps?
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt about it.
Hmm.
I think you can look at the people at the top of the leaderboards this year and see how the rules have affect how whether it's communication rules or whatever it is. The leaders have changed, not all of them, but a lot of some of the leaders have changed this year. And maybe it's still earlier in the year, but yeah, it seems like there's definitely been a different group at the top this year, or maybe a little bit more level playing field, I would say.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's no doubt it does. And I am against. I said on the podcast. I said whenever I was on
Hmm.
Thailand Fin, I am against designated launches. I like hard boundaries where you can't go past this. You can launch, get there however you want to, but as far as you can go, rather than having can a person like here's an example. Drew Gregory. I'm not saying just him. Anybody who's a river guy, my buddy Lance here, he's one of the best creek guys in the country. If you are light enough and you can physically scoot your light kayak over something, which me and a Hobie, because I'm heavy and I have a heavy kayak, I would not be able to get over that shoal, that real super shallow water. You
Right.
know, an inch or 2 deep, if that. But he can scoot over it, so he's able to access water that I'm not able to.
Hmm.
Now, his argument would be that, well, his physical abilities allow him to do that, because he is smaller, because he does have a lighter kayak. He's made the decision to fish this way in that tournament.
Hmm.
Um, I don't begrudge him for that. I think he should be able to. I
Hmm.
think whenever we take away I'll say this, it's difficult to be a TD. I'm a committee member in my own club, Iron City Kayak Anglers. It's tough. God bless TDs because their job sucks, and 99% of them do it for free.
Hmm.
Whenever we made paddle people have to have motors to access water that they used to be able to just paddle, I think that was a mistake and it hurt our sport. Some people would say, well, that's not they would say, well, it's different because it's tournament fishing or it's national tournament fishing. No, it's the same thing. I disagree with that. And I think it should have been hard boundaries. But there's definitely room for discussion there.
Hmm.
That's just where I think we should have went rather than designated launches.
So you said hard like boulders around the lake
Yeah, like you draw a
versus
map. The TD draws a map, puts a map online where he colors in.
right.
Some you could have somebody else do it, and I think once we like what let's say one trail Bass goes to Gunnersville,
Mhm.
Steve does the lines, and then everybody has those lines for the next tournament that goes to Gunnersville because it's
Yeah.
probably not going to change. He probably did it reasonably, and it won't need to be changed. Then it only has to be done one time, and then once all these lakes get done one time, you don't have to do them anymore. And then there's never a question of launches or anything else. Which I mean,
Mhm.
you would still have to fish in legal launches, but or legal public land access points, things like that, that were always
Public
legal.
access. So
Yeah.
that needs to definitely be in the rules is public access launches
Well,
because I
that's how
mean
it's on, but it could be public land. Like here in Alabama, the power company could own the land and you can launch from their land.
Mhm.
But you use apps like OnX, and sometimes that's a steep cliff. Like I've got friends and they will take a winch and launch down a steep cliff to access water to be able to paddle to that nobody else can get to.
How do they get back?
They figure it out, man. I'm telling you, dude, some of these people around here are hardcore.
Really?
Oh,
They take it to the
absolutely.
next level, huh?
They really do. And but that's cool. That like that they're putting all that physical effort into it. And I think it's not a side of the sport that I usually take part of, but I think we need to allow them to be able to do it. They need to be able to do that.
Yeah.
That makes our sport cool. Like, don't take that away because it's a national trail, and I'm
My
not going to do it. Yeah,
my only argument, I have somewhat of a different opinion on it just because traveling from California, it's not easy. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And I sometimes I want to see some of the Californian guys place in the top 20, top 30. It was really awesome that uh, Damian Tao made it
yeah,
second
oh, yeah.
place over the Bassmaster. It's just,
That dude's so good.
huh? What?
That dude's so good.
Oh, he is
Yeah.
definitely. Um,
He's
but I
throwing a
just,
dang square bill on a Carolina rig.
I know that's insane.
Get out of here with that.
The only thing is like traveling all the way from California. It makes it difficult when you got all these locals that been pre-fishing for like 2-3 weeks,
Yeah, well, there should also be off limits,
and
and I think the event
yeah,
you're talking about, like Russ wouldn't have been able to fish. He never would have been able to fish that far because there would have been hard boundaries that he wouldn't have been able to go past.
yeah,
He went way beyond, and I think Chad Hoover would agree with this. He definitely played by the rules. I love Russ. Nothing
hmm
against him. He followed the rules. He deserved the win.
yeah.
But I think he went further, him and Drew, because Drew was sharing water with him.
Drew,
He
was
went
it Drew or was it Cody Milton?
Yeah, it might have been Drew and Cody, and then I don't know.
Okay.
But whatever it is, they went way beyond the point of reasonable bounds. It would have been out of bounds.
Yeah.
Again, they did right. He deserves his win because he followed
But
the rules
but
of the
but
tournament.
he followed the rules, but what
Going forward, that water
bent
would
it,
not
yeah.
be in bounds.
Yeah.
So it's fair. I would think it's fair for anybody because anybody can access that water.
hmm So yeah, well, I mean, I agree with you then, because if you draw the boundaries and you had a cutoff
Yeah.
where you can't fish it, you can't touch the lake until 3 days before. Give
Yep.
3 days practice. Have a hard cutoff, have boundaries, and if you have those rules in place, then there should be no problem.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's like I said, like it's hard to travel all the way from California
Oh yeah.
and see someone go that far of a distance to go fishing where
I
it's
agree
like
because you'd never be
technically
able to cover that water. Yeah, that
it's
water
kind of
should
like, yep, it's kind of like
yeah,
donating at that
yeah,
point.
that water should
I-
not have been in bounds,
right,
no doubt.
right. So, I mean, I hope those rules are in place at some in a different organization.
Yeah, like Hobie this year, I think they went. I'm this year. I'm only fishing local stuff because I
Yeah.
fished so many, KF, the KFL stuff and
Hmm.
national stuff last few years. I've never been able to. I really want to win at least one angler of the year in my state this year, and that's
Hmm.
why, you know, yeah, that's why I wanted to fish everything local this year. That was my
Yeah.
goal to be able to prove it to myself. But but yeah, so I don't
Well,
know.
I mean, you're killing it. Who
Yeah.
is following along?
Hey. How does that guy break so many outbacks? I don't understand.
We should bring him on
What is
and
he
ask him.
doing?
No, there's a lot of outbacks that have been getting a lot of problems.
Oh, really?
Not just
Well,
Puas. My buddy Cheetos had a crack.
dang, you
I
hang out with
think.
some cool Pua and Chia, and
Yeah.
my friends are like Bob and Steve. I
And
need
then
some Chias.
I think there's a few people with the 360 drive. The Hope
Yeah,
EPA
I
have
have a
had some
180.
cracks. So you never had any issues yet?
180? No. Mm-mm.
So you think it's a 360 deal? Some of the holes? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like my shop sells Hobie.
Yeah.
I've owned Old Town. I've owned a bunch of other kayaks. The Hobie Pro Angler is the best kayak I've ever had, hands down. It's awesome.
You're
So the
saying it's
water,
like we talked earlier, it compromises a little bit of both. It's not the most stable, it's not the fastest kayak. It's right in between
yeah,
where it meets the two, where it's fast and it's stable, but it's not the fastest and the most stable.
yeah. It's not like Titan stable, but it's not Titan slow. Like a Titan might be 10 stable, but 4 fast, and like it might be a 7 or 8 in every
It's
category
not a
rather than.
pursuit and it's not a titan,
Yeah,
pretty
exactly.
much. Yeah,
I mean,
I
I
can believe
love
that.
it. I really did my research, and I got on the forums, the Hobie Pro Angler 360 group, and it just and the people that I know that have had issues, I think they've corrected a lot of those since they first came out. Like the bearings in the drive, that was an initial
Mhm.
issue. They've definitely fixed that. But some belts, clutches, I don't want to be without my kayak for 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it is. But they are
Yeah.
great about warranties. And if you could buy a spare drive, it would be different. But they're still not. They don't have enough drives to allow you to buy an extra one. So it's not like you can have a spare.
Oh,
Um,
really?
Now, if it would be very expensive to do, but if that were possible, then I would. I would,
Yeah.
if your clutch goes out, which is internal, or a belt, if that goes out, and I know that they did fix some of that as well. There was something where it was not it was kind of cutting them, or there was some metal piece. I don't know. I don't have one. I know they've solved a lot of the issues. If I could have a second drive, I might would have a 360, but
Mhm.
I prefer everything on my kayak. I have it set up to be the most durable, so it's not going to go out on me during
Mhm.
the tournament.
He says I don't have a say on the Outbacks. He's only 155 pounds. The whole cracks. I don't know. Sounds like a factory issue or something like that. It's
Well, they
great.
moved
Both of
they
them are
moved
great boats. I mean, I think he would have
they
loved.
moved it to Mexico, so maybe there's a
Yeah,
something in manufacturing for a while.
the
I
Q
don't
and
know.
A. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's a great boat. Outback makes great boats.
Oh, yeah.
But I can't wait for my take two, man. And not a lot of people know that I got a take two. So
I'm excited
everybody
for
that's
you.
listening to
Yeah.
this podcast is gonna know. Um, so let's leave it off with some great tips
Okay.
for people that are on the struggle bus, like including me right now, is how do you get that momentum? Because you coming back from back to back wins?
Last weekend, I got a first and a third
Yeah.
at the same time. The weekend before that, I got big fish in one, and I should have won it, but I didn't have the right identifier card. Like
Oh my
KBF,
god.
you have to have the card.
Yeah.
and I didn't have the right card, but somebody gave me one in the afternoon and I caught big fish, or I would have won that one too. And then I got fifth at the same time, and then the last two tournaments before that I won. So I've definitely been on a heater this year.
And are they? How many boats are you talking about? Are you talking
Yeah,
about?
a lot of them because they're local. They're not, they're not giant. Last weekend it was 76 or
See, that's
79. I got third. The
yeah.
$29 high, the 29 person high roller that I won on top of that
Hmm.
only had less people, but a lot of them are like, you know, 25 to 50, somewhere around there. So not big tournaments.
So you've been on heater. 79 is pretty big.
Oh yeah,
It's bigger than like
that's as big
34.
as they get here in
Yeah,
Alabama.
that's pretty decent size. So what are your top 3 tips for people that are having trouble catching 5 or that are having trouble putting themselves in contention to be in the top 3? Always.
Number one, and this is something I've only learned in the last 2 years. It's like I read this book on visualization. Absolutely hyper focus on your casting. And I mean that not just where you're casting, but the whole cast.
Mhm.
Don't look around, don't be looking at your phone, don't look at the bird on the bank, don't look down the bank. Focus on exactly what you're doing. Put yourself in that exact second, that exact crank, and visualize the fish that's about to hit it. Because at the end of the day, it's not, let's say you make 100 casts, and obviously you're going to make a lot more, but for numbers' sake, let's say you're going to make 100 casts in a day,
Mhm.
and 20 of those are actually 80 of them you can throw away because you're not actually around a catchable fish. So if it's not about those 80 casts, it's about making 20 really good casts, 20 perfect casts that you can make, or 20 don't miss the fish casts.
Mhm.
Absolutely hyper focus on what you're doing and your casting and looking at your bait and feeling it and watching your line. If like, let's say you're fishing spinning tackle and you're watching your line go down, pay attention to that line and watch it jump. Hyper focus on what you're doing, and that has absolutely, I think that's been the number one thing between 3 and 4 years ago to
Mhm.
2 years ago, whenever I started winning a lot more.
Yeah.
I think that was the number one thing that I've done. I've
Okay.
said that a couple times on my podcast, and I
Are you
can't
gonna
say
rig
it
up
more.
that live scope, or are you gonna just leave it off for the whole year?
As soon as I suck, I'll put it on there. I haven't put it on yet.
No.
I have it rigged up. I just haven't actually brought it to a tournament yet because I don't want to change what I'm doing right now.
So you leave the transducer at home,
Yeah. Mhm.
but you have the box inside your kayak, like
Yeah.
the geos.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
I have it mounted in there. I bought a separate plug so that way the line can just go, it comes outside my through hole and sits on
Mhm.
the front of my kayak where I could connect the transducer to it.
Yeah. Yeah, you have an extra extension cable.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Because there's
everybody.
no way that we could disconnect it from the transducer. It's like once it's on there, it's on there. It can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pooh was like, "Let's go, Dan. No live scope needed. Just focus on that cast."
Yeah. Number two, pay attention to your hooks. Like, it seems like I've been more focused on the little things, like less about color, less about baits, less about whatever. But I am very concerned with how sharp my hooks are, or that I'm using the right hook, or that I'm paying attention to how they're hooked. Whether I should be using a lighter hook or what, like, you don't always need a gaff. 95% of the time, you don't need a heavy wire hook. You want the hook that's going to penetrate the best. So I think a lot of times people can over go with a larger gauge hook than what they actually need. If you
Right.
drop that down one, your hook, you might lose that one every now and then, and it might be the one you really wanted. but the amount of fish that you're going to catch is going to go up, and that at the end of the day, tournament wise, is the most important.
Right, right. Um, and I feel like, if there's not a lot of cover, then you don't really need it. And I feel like the lighter wire hook will give more action to the bait as
Yeah,
well. And you don't need to swing on to them really hard with a light wire hook.
yeah. Or even if like let's say I know
Yeah.
about myself, I see some people and they just absolutely like slackline them or like swindle. They just give them hell. They these super hard hook sets.
Hmm.
A lot of times I find myself out of position, or you're in a kayak. You're not always going to get that good leverage hook set
Yeah.
or whatever. I think or I usually don't have that super hard hook set. That I think for me going to a lot of my hooks, one step down lighter wire would definitely help
Yeah.
when possible. And you can't always do that, but
I mean, to add on to that, it's kind of like, you got to worry about your knot too.
yeah,
Not, I mean, just your polymer knot. Polymer knots are known to dig into the line and break off a lot of the
yeah,
times. I mean, I broke off. I gotta say, it was a big fish. It felt big on the hook set. You know how you feel it on the hook
yeah,
set,
oh
and you feel a little bit of weight to it, and then it
yeah. Mhm.
snaps. Well, dude, I think I broke off like a 22, 23 plus because it felt big when it ate it. But
Yeah.
but yeah, the knot, how sharp your hook is. What's your last tip?
Go for the throat, man. Like, don't be afraid to pull out that big top water, the big bait, the whatever it is. Like, step on their freaking throats, man.
Wow.
If you're out there to beat people, try to beat them. Don't try to. Because wacky rig, I catch more fish on wacky rig than anything else. This weekend, I would not have won nearly as much money as I did if I didn't have a wacky rig.
Yeah.
But man, sometimes pull out the jig, pull out the big bait, pull out the big top water, and throw that damn thing till your arm hurts and try to win a tournament. Don't try to do okay, try to freaking win. Step
That's
on
very
it.
true.
Sometimes you got
Yeah.
to just balls to the wall, go for the win. Don't go for a
Yeah.
limit. Go
Yeah.
a lot of times, I don't know how many times I've ended up coming in right out of the money where I wasted so much time looking for a limit whenever I should have been looking for the bigger fish, and then scrambling at the end of the day to try to catch a limit if I had to. Go for the bigs. I was really missing that out of my game a few years ago, and I've definitely made a conscious effort to actually go for the win and don't go
So
for
you're so
whatever.
you're you will go out in flames if you have to go for the win. You'll
No,
drop you'll drop down a 90th place out of 100 boats, even if it means throwing that same bait all day until your arm
n-
comes off.
no, but I'll do it half the day.
You do it half. So
Yeah,
you have
like yeah, like
you have 3 fish in the boat.
yeah.
You have you have 3 fish in the boat. It's an 8-hour tournament. You have 2.5 hours left. What do you do?
Oh, I'm throwing a wacky rig. I mean, there ain't no doubt
Yeah.
about it. That and I'm really weird. Like people will say, "Oh, what's your favorite technique?" Like mine are like swim jig on braid and wacky rig,
Mhm.
frog and Nico rig. Like I don't, I'm not a lot in the middle. I'm
Mhm.
either really big, big going for big fish, or I'm like going for a limit. I don't have a lot of the middle stuff. Like I do have it in my boat and I throw it,
Very
but
extreme.
yeah, it
You
seems
either pick
yeah.
up a bait that does all the work for you, or pick up a bait that you're doing all the work for the lure,
There
right?
you go.
Wow, that's some knowledge. Guys, just go for the win. Go balls out. Keep your hook sharpened. And the first tip was stay focused on the cast. Stay focused on every single cast.
Yeah.
Keep your hook sharp.
Visualization is what it is.
Visualize. Stay sharp. And then third is
Go for the win.
go for the
Step on their
win.
throats.
Balls out. Step
Balls
on their
out.
throat.
That's
Step
right.
on their throat.
Net. Max, I am a net guy. I want to.
Yeah, Max Lee's asking Dan, are you a net guy or are you a boat flipper?
Oh, I net. Man, I want to get every fish in I can.
You net a swim jig fish?
Hell yeah, I net everything.
On braid, you don't just swing them in?
No.
If he's a 12-incher, are you swinging him in?
Yeah, if I don't need them, I'm swinging them in.
What about if you don't need him, like, as your first fish, but you're just kind of like, I should measure him. Are you going to swing him in? It's your first fish, 12-incher.
No.
Net?
Net.
So you swing him in only if you know it's not a coal.
Yeah, I have messed up before doing that, like playing around with them. Oh, it's not a very big one at the beginning of the day and then needed it at the end.
Later on. Yeah, that happened to me too. Yeah. Because you tried to flip it?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Because you're sitting there playing around with it, not like putting it in the net and getting it in the boat as quick as you can. Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I've been practicing a lot with the net lately.
Which net do you have?
And there's a beauty to it. It's the one that Greg Blanchard has, but it's a shorter handle.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Don't use it.
Don't use But what I've been doing is I put a post with the Yak Attack roto grips, and then I plop it on the post right next to my live scope handle, but I make sure the net doesn't get tangled on anything on the when I lift it. So when I lift it, I'm making sure it's not going to get caught up. And then when I lift it, right when I see the leader goes into my rod tip, like for instance, if I'm using a spinning rod, right when I see that FG knot come in like halfway down the rod tip, I'll grab the net. But I won't grab the net prematurely because I know that fish is going to take a dive. Yeah. And I rather have that extra hand giving slack line, giving more line out to him and adjusting my drag on the way out, because if I'm using 10 or 8 or 6, like I need to stay focused on the fight and not lift up that net when I don't need to lift it up yet. Yeah. And then, so it's on that little post, I lift it up. And then what I do is when I have that fish in the net, I turn that post around at an angle. I get the handle of the net and I put the handle right back in that post. But then now I have, instead of having the net out towards the bow, now I have the net towards the stern. And so the fish is still in the water. The handle's on the post attached to the rotor grip on the post. It's on the side dangling next to my boat. So the fish is in the water, in the net, and as a fence. And as a fence. And so I grab the fish, unhook it. And what I realized too is when you're fishing a drop shot and then there's a little one on, that thing, when it's on in your boat, it spins. And then you're wasting all that time with that drop shot hook just going like this. And then you're going to have to retie. You're going to have to put on a new worm because he messed up your worm. You leave that fish in the water that's not really crucial, but you still want to measure it. Leave it in the water, it's not going to start doing that line twist. So I pull it out when he's ready. I take the hook out, flip it out. Now that net's acting like a fence. Measure it, take a photo, put it back in the net, check my photo, and then just softly release it. I think it is one of the most underrated processes of catching and taking a photo of a fish is the net all the way to the photo submission, all the way to the release. That is the most underrated process in kayak fishing that I think everybody should create a staple. And I used to be a no net guy.
Oh yeah.
Everybody on YouTube are just in my comments like, dude, get a net. I can't believe you're not using a net. And I was like, I don't need a net, guys. Come on, man. I choose to do it because there's more drama involved in the videos of lipping a fish because it causes more attention. I mean, that's why Bassmasters, they don't allow the net because they want that as a part of the action.
I never thought about the reason behind it. That makes sense though.
And there's more drama, especially with the live. You lose a 10-pounder, that makes people want to follow it more, want to watch it more, is to see all those devastating losses, right? So I wanted to incorporate that in my video just because there's that dramatic event that could happen, that naturally could happen. But anyways, thanks for coming on as a guest on the Double Digit Angler podcast. And
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
is there anything that you want to, any brands that you want to shout out, any sponsors you want to shout out, any loved ones?
Yeah, I would say my wife, but she don't listen to my stuff. Uh, I mean, I'm being real.
Yeah.
Zipro Lithium right there. Got best batteries in the game. Bluetooth. That's where it's
Yep.
at. Yeah, X-Zone lures. You can see that stuff behind me. I
Mhm.
truly use it. The worms float. I think it's a real thing. Besides that, Bucks Island. If you happen to be in Alabama, you need a Hobie or a Jackson. It's a place to be in. Yeah, Gadget. If you have a Hobie, they just came out with a new track. It goes on the H rail and it's got a cup. Really cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Gadget and Yak Attack, they've got great products. So if you need something, check them out. Besides that, check out Daniel Perry Fishing. I'm on YouTube. I have a really shitty channel there, and Instagram. Yeah, same thing, Daniel Perry Fishing. And
And
you, thank you for letting me be on, man. I appreciate it.
no problem, man. I enjoyed having conversations with you. We kind of grew our relationship over the past year, ever since
Oh,
I got a little momentum until now. So I hope
yeah.
we get to go fishing sometime over in Alabama or meet up halfway at some
Let's do
point.
it. I'll put you on your PB spot.
PB spot. I kind of want to meet you over at OHIV.
I would love to do that too. Yeah.
If you ever down for that, and we have, I don't know, I probably could bring like at least 2 anglers with me
That'd be
to
a hoot, man.
OHIV. And then if you could bring 2 or 3 with you, then maybe
Yeah,
we can cut down on cost.
that'd be
But
fun.
before you go, one last thing, and I promise it's the last thing.
Yeah, man.
What batteries do you recommend for your motor and for your graph? The best one that that is recommended for the draw that your motor has and the draw that your graph is. And tell me what graph you're running and the amp draw of it, and then what motor you're running and the amp is draw on that.
No clue about amps, but I've got the
Mhm.
NK180 and the 24 volt 50.
Yeah.
I would, if I ran it one time, I've ran it out, but that
Okay,
was
tell me about that time.
okay. I was in North Carolina on this really crappy lake in the KFL that the Tar Heel Lunkers put us on. It's like a wakeboard. I didn't know it was like a complete ski wakeboard, like party lake,
Mhm.
and the fishing was okay. I went all the way to the end of the lake, down every creek on that end of the lake, and then came all the way back, and I had it on 100% all day long because KFL tournaments were a little bit shorter, but you were able to launch early. So I went. I don't even know how many miles I went because the Newport doesn't tell you, but I'm telling you, it was a long way. I've never
So you
ran
went
out. So.
100% every single time you were
Oh
on the
yeah,
motor.
it was. Well, I had never run it out, and so I I think once you run it out, you realize where you need to be. Now I usually run it at like 4.2 miles an hour, which is usually like 80%, and I can
Mhm.
do that all day long. Like there is
Let's say if
no
you
other.
run 4.5,
Say what?
4.6. What if you ran 4.6 miles an hour?
Yeah, as long as it wasn't a day. I mean, sometimes I still run it on if I know I'm not going to use it a lot. I'm
Mhm.
100%. If I'm not using it a lot, and I don't think I'm going to run out, I'm 100% as hard as 5 miles an hour fast as it'll go.
Are
But
you
if
using it during fishing?
oh yeah, no,
Or you pedal
seldom.
drive? You pedal
Yeah,
drive
I usually
fish.
pedal.
Okay.
I use my rudder. I don't have like
Oh, foot
integrated
steering.
foot control
Yeah.
steering. I do that because, like I said earlier, I want all my stuff to be as durable as possible.
Mhm.
Like I don't even have a reverse line set up because I use the little 8-inch bungee on the back of my mount, and
Yeah.
it kind of gives you a reverse without reverse.
Okay.
It's like a little. It was on Jeff Little's thing on
Okay.
his. He showed it where if you put a couple of 8-inch bungees on there, you can still pull it up easy if you're trying to get it out of the water, but it's got enough pressure on it so that you don't have to do a reverse lever. So I have all my stuff set up as absolute simple, as durable as possible. That's my
Okay.
whole theory on everything. But that motor, one time I ran out. Now I know what I can and can't do, but
Okay.
I always have enough power. It is absolutely, I don't know how much effort it saved me, which I probably need to drop the LBs
Mhm.
and I need to burn the calories, but at the same time, man, at the end of the day, having a motor and a battery, getting back to the launch after a long, hot day,
Mhm.
dude, that's just that's a lifesaver.
24-volt, 50 amp hour.
Yeah, and you can go bigger. You can go with the 60, and you can just run that dude 100% all day, and you'd never run out. But then you're giving up some weight. There's going to be more weight associated and size associated with that, which I'm totally happy with where I'm at. It's a great balance.
But
Um,
the safe speed is 4.2 to 4.3 miles an hour.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's really 80%.
Okay, 80.
Yeah, sometimes that's a little bit less depending on the current and the wind, if
Yeah.
it's all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But I'd say I run at 80%, and I could go. I don't think I could run out in a day.
But now you have Bluetooth,
Yeah, Bluetooth. I
right?
haven't even set that up because I know because on my NK180 it tells me
How much is left?
it tells me what my
Oh, your volts is
my volts. It
your
tells me
volts.
my
Yeah.
volts, so I know where I'm
You
at.
should though, man. You
Yeah,
should install that app.
I know, I need to.
Just
Um,
because like on that run back, or let's say you're during practice, right? And you find them 10 miles out, right? You know exactly how much percentage that you burnt going 10
yeah,
miles out. And then you can make sure that you can get back with that motor as
that's true.
well. So if it's at like 30% burnout, going 100% 10 miles away, then you're just like, oh, it's just another 30% back at 100%. So now you know you have that 40% margin of error of room to make kind of like a little spot change in midway or something. And you're like, oh, maybe I should hit up that dock on the way back or something like that. Then you
Oh.
go back to that dock and you still have that 40%.
See,
but
I hadn't even thought about it like that.
yeah, dude, I'm taking to a new
Yeah.
level, man.
Well, see, you don't pedal either. So
Huh?
if you run out, it's you got to paddle.
Yeah, it's crappy,
Yeah.
man.
I mean,
um,
if I run out, it's like, oh, I'll just pedal. It's okay.
yeah. That's the plan is Jackson Nar eventually.
Yeah.
But
And then on the graph, I have a Garmin
yeah.
93 SV. I do want to go to a 10, maybe a 12. We'll
Go
see.
with the from what I've heard, what I recommend is go with the it's gonna cost you. But don't upgrade to the 10 if you're really gonna get something better than get the 8612 or the 8610
Really.
because that's going from 800 times 400 to 1920 by 1080.
Mm,
That's like YouTube quality.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you know the difference between
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
1080p TV and 480p
Yeah.
TV. You know what I mean? There you'll see a big difference, but you won't see much of a big difference, I think, from a 93 UHD to a 106 SV. Other than it's more real estate.
Yeah. I finally got the trailer I wanted, the kayak I wanted, all my rods and reels upgraded, all the bait. Like I have everything upgraded where I want it. Now it's back to graph. So yeah, I'm starting to do some research, see what I'm going to get.
Get the
But right now I'm just
8612.
yeah,
It's gonna
I
be
just
2 or 3 grand though.
yeah. Mm. I won some last weekend, so I got a chunk towards it.
Do it.
Um,
You're gonna love it, man. You're
yeah.
gonna love it. That's what Milliken Fishing uses is I think a 8616 or something like that, or
Oh yeah.
86 a 16-inch that costs about 15 grand or 5 grand, 5 or 6 grand.
I don't ball that hard, man. But yeah, I'm just running the 12 volt 30 amp. That's
Yeah.
plenty of power. And I haven't obviously, like you said, I haven't actually. It's run the black box, but it hasn't run the actual transducer yet. But I talked to Michael, the owner of Z Pro, and he said for the draw that the 30 amps plenty for the 93 SV and running a live scope in a
You're running about 2.3 amps. That's the draw. So you're
Are you
looking
an
at
electrician? Is this what you do?
No, it's just I have so many issues with wiring, and
Mm,
I've ran into the problems. I'm gonna be straight up. I ran into the problems, and I realized that 30 amp is enough for the 93 SV UHD because the amp draw is only 1.3 max on that unit that you have, and then the black box is like 1 amp draw. So you add those together, you get 2.3 times it by 10. You need 23 amp hours for 10 hours of life. But I mean, I like that 50 just
yeah.
because I'm like I can get that day and a half
Oh yeah.
if I really wanted to, or I can get that almost 2 days. But what I didn't know is that when I upgraded to a 10-inch, my new amp draw for the 10-inch is like 3 amps
A lot
max.
more. Yeah, I've heard that.
So I definitely need that 50. So
Yeah.
now I run the 50 for the unit just to be safe. I run another battery for my live scope and my lights and etc. So now I'm like, I don't have to charge for 2 days sometimes.
Yeah. And
So,
and that's kind of where I'm at. Like I have enough for what I have now, but
yeah.
if I'm going to upgrade my graph, then I'll upgrade my graph battery at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet you if you got a separate 30 amp hour for your black box, you wouldn't have to charge for 2 whole days for your black box and your fishing graph.
I don't know where I'd put that though.
You
That'd be
have
cool.
a PA-14 though, man. That's huge, dude.
Yeah, but man, I have. I don't even want to talk about my ghetto rigging, but I have my battery. Like I have the Tim Percy sells this. It goes on the sail mast on the inside. It's
Mhm.
a plate that you mount the black box. I
Yeah,
also
yeah,
have my 30 amp battery on there, but I just have it like zip
yeah.
suspended up by zip ties.
Really? It's
Yeah.
working though?
Oh yeah, hell yeah! Like I cut some holes in the thing, so I have like 5 zip ties going over. It's like
Dude,
my battery.
you should just zip tie like a plastic Tupperware and then just drop the battery in the Tupperware or something like that.
Well, you should have been there whenever I was doing that to tell me that.
I
So
gotta
it's
show
like
you a
my
picture.
battery's in bondage up against the wall, you know. Yeah.
My buddy actually sticks a 30 amp hour. You know that foam insert that you have that access to right under your seat?
Yeah. I've seen
He
Jay Wallen. He has that too.
he
Yeah.
cut out a little piece of the foam and stick the battery in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I hear
I
you.
don't know. You can do either way. It doesn't matter. Whatever floats your boat, pretty
I don't.
much.
Yeah. I don't
Literally.
know. Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on the show, and we'll talk later. We'll talk at the next episode of your
Sounds
show.
good.
Oh, give a shout out real quick for your podcast.
Yeah. Advanced kayak angler. Check it out.
I thought I was beers.
Bass Kayak and Beers
Yeah.
is the kind of the parent, and then me and Armando, we're both under that one umbrella
Oh,
where
okay.
he has the real life and I have Advanced Kayak Angler. So if
Advanced
you go
kayak.
on, you could either search in any kind of podcast platform, either Bass Kayak and Beers, or you can search Advanced Kayak Angler.
I like that. All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
Later.
Peace.